Welcome everybody to the consumer panel. Everybody on the hot seat, I'm gonna make some introductions here. So on my left is Christine Launderville. Said it right. Very good, from Mechanicsburg. She's an experienced home buyer. I think she said you bought 8 houses, am I correct?
Yep.
8 houses throughout the country. In the hot seat in the middle is Heather Swintoski. Did I say it right?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes, sir.
From now on, it's just Heather. She's from Newville and also sort of kind of related to Terry's
Not really.
son.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Her daughter's dating
Time.
Terry's son.
Let's not rush it, guys.
Yeah. If anybody saw the promposal on Facebook. So there's, and then on the end is Kristen Sperry. She's from Columbia, PA. She was one of my clients, and Terry's worked with these other two. So I'm sure they're going to glorify everything that we did for them and probably tell you some things that we did really badly. Hopefully not. So welcome, ladies. Thank you for coming. We have about, I don't know, 15, 20 people online, so we don't have 250, so don't worry.
No pressure.
It is being recorded, so be careful what you say. So first question, I'm gonna start here on the left with Christine. What do you expect from a buyer's agent? Very broad question.
I expect that they pay attention to what it is that I'm looking for. I think that understanding that I have experience buying a home, but I know from the beginning when I didn't have experience, I needed my agent to be able to kind of like reel me into my expectations versus like my budget versus what it is that I wanted. So I think that was always a big deal for me. And even now, I purchase more on the rental home side. So I also need them to also pay attention to what is it that I expect to get for my money versus what is it that is going to make the most sense in the economy that I'm in.
So is the agent asking you those questions, or are you just telling them right up front?
So I basically tell my agent what it is that I'm looking for. I tell them where my budget is at. I give them like a range and I let them know if I'm willing to go outside of that range or not. And then I expect them to tell me if my expectations are unreasonable depending on what it is that I give them.
You're receptive to having someone tell you that you're wrong?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
yeah. Because I don't understand what the market is at as much as I understand what it is that I'm looking for.
Right. Okay, good. Thank you. Heather, how
I
about you?
liked her answer.
Would you
It's really, really
so
good.
just repeat what you said?
Yeah, I've only bought a couple houses, so we're getting ready to sell our home now. But I've only bought 2 homes, you know, in the 30 years that I've been buying homes and selling homes and being adult like. So when we first bought our first home, I was only 20. So I feel like I relied on my agent a lot, but I can't tell you that I remember a lot of it. And our budget was so small because we were so young. So I did remember him having to pull us from different areas. Like we were in Dillsburg and Mechanicsburg, and our budget was $75,000 back then. So he had to wheel us into Newville. And that's kind of how I ended up back into Newville, because the prices coming this way are always a bit higher than that way. So I think I would expect now, even though we're building and not buying, more so from my selling standpoint, is the same thing as Christine's saying from a buying standpoint. I need realistic values for the home and realistic of what people are looking for versus what they're not looking for, and what that value of the home truly is, not what I think it is, because I've lived there with all my memories and all the love I've given it. So I think from that standpoint, I would feel the same way as you. I just need realistic goals and realistic values for that home and things like that.
Okay.
I agree with that. I actually jotted down some notes, but that was one of my main things. We just bought our first house. So we were turning to to help advise on like what the values of the houses were. I also think that it was really important to have input on like what kinds of repairs could be costly. And yeah, if there's imperfections or like things that could be an issue later down the road. And then just like not like pressuring us into a house. And I'll probably talk about this again later, but there were a couple of houses where we were kind of on the fence, and we got some additional feedback that maybe there could be some other ones that are better for us, later down the road, and I found that valuable and knowing that, like, obviously you guys get paid once you get a house, so like, you know, just having, it made it more like you're talking to like a family member versus somebody that's trying to make money off of you.
Thank you.
Can I?
Please.
A follow-up question?
Yep.
It seems like you three are all okay with the hard conversation of your expectations are unrealistic. And I think a lot of agents are afraid to have those hard conversations with their clients, but you find value in them.
And I would say lay it out immediately, like.
Yeah.
Because I'm a person who will dive in pretty deep, pretty quick. So you have to pull me back.
So better soon
Oh, yeah,
rather than
don't let me
later.
get out in the water and bring me back in.
Right.
Like, I need to be back right away, because if you've already given me those expectations and I'm feeling like you're with me. And
Yeah.
then like 2 weeks down the road, you're like, yeah, no, we're not gonna be able to do, I'm like, well, why didn't
Right.
you give me that information 2 weeks ago?
Okay.
You know, so, yeah.
I did want to quickly add something to what, something that I said in terms of like feedback of what a good buy would be versus what it isn't. Like I felt like my husband and I always talked about what our initial thoughts were before that additional feedback was provided. So it wasn't, I feel like it was never like we weren't like pushed into anything or pushed away from something until they provided our, like our initial thoughts on it.
Yeah.
It was kind of like validation on where we were leaning versus like, you know, somebody being pushy, so.
Right. So, Kristen, so how did you find your buyer's agent? Do you remember?
Yeah, well, Nick remembers because he was the one who found you guys. So it was actually the like mortgage company, was that Titan? I forget.
Fidelis.
Fidelis, thank you. I saw Titan's logo on the door and I forgot. But anyway, yeah, so it was kind of like a referral upon referral,
Mhm. Okay,
so.
Heather, how about you?
I don't remember how I found the agent for our first house. The second house we built, so we didn't really have an agent. But we just bought ground 3 years ago, and I found that agent through the ground. So when I was looking at the ground on real estate or realtor.com, Emily was the one who had it listed. And she's through, I don't remember where she's through now, but out of Shippensburg. So, and I would have used Emily again. She was very knowledgeable about the ground that we bought, and she took care of everything. We didn't really have to do much with it. That's, yeah, I think I found, and I'm pretty sure that's how I found Vince too, because I think he was selling the house in Newville that we were looking at. So,
But Christine, you've bought and sold or bought 8 houses. So how do you, in different states? So how do you find an agent? You walk into Oklahoma where you
Yeah.
have multiple properties. Now you have relationships, but
Right.
how did you decide on who you were gonna pick?
So I basically walked in, like I had friends that lived in the area and I asked them each, do you know anybody, right? And they each gave me like a realtor's name and I basically like went in and I said, hey, I'm looking for a realtor, can I interview you? And they're like, yeah, how do you want to do that? And I was like, I want to just go and look at one house and kind of see how that feels. And I had one person like walk me into a house and I walked around the house, I was talking about the house and the person started to talk over me and I was like, we're done here. And I like got in my car and I left. And yeah, I just kind of feel like I had a friend and I said, hey, do you know anybody that sells houses? And I went with one realtor a while ago and that person, I didn't really feel good about that person just because they were clearly trying to sell me a house. When I was talking about like issues I had with the house, the structure of the house, right? Like I didn't like the depth of the stairs and he's like, oh, that's fine. And I'm like, no, it's not fine. Like if it's an issue for me, it's not fine. I'm not saying it's structurally unsound. And then I had another friend who was like, hey, I know somebody. And then, yeah, we met, we looked at one house and I was like, okay, this is my realtor.
You know, something I'm hearing recurring theme, and I think other agents are hearing it too. There's 2 different types of real estate agents. You have transactional who are just trying to make a buck, sell the house, and then relationship based, which we talk about that at our brokerage level is, do you want to be a number or do you want them to remember your name? That's gonna be one of the questions we come up with is, do they remember their real estate agent's name? So with that, do you know your first real estate agent's name?
My first real estate agent's name, no.
No?
But I remember Deb, she's the person that I go back and I buy houses from in Oklahoma all the time, and Terry, who, I'm not buying more houses here, but if I would, then
You would use Terry again?
absolutely.
Duh.
Ah,
I mean, when it comes time to selling, right, like, I don't feel like for me, Pennsylvania is a place where I want to own rental properties. So I don't have a need to own multiple homes here, but when it comes time to selling, I would 100%
okay.
come back to Terry.
Heather?
Yes, I remember Vince Malott was my first real estate agent, and then Emily Weaver was my second. So we've only really dealt with two.
Do you have contact with your agents still, even though you're not buying a house?
Vince. I stay in contact with Emily through Facebook, just watching her family grow and things like that. But because you become kind of family with people, whether you're dating your daughters and sons are dating or not, you do kind of become family with the people that you're trying to make a big move on. You know, this is a big deal. It's not an easy decision for anybody. As you know, you took 3 years to find a home. It's a very big decision. And so, yeah, I think we rely mostly on the people who know it the best.
Mhm.
So.
I have a question.
Please.
Does it make a difference to you if your agent follows up with you, like after the purchase of a home? Are you expecting that, or
I don't.
does it make it?
I don't think I expect that. I think I expect we all move on with life and,
Okay.
you know, I think it's awesome if you do, and I would never hesitate to say, oh my gosh, it's great to hear from you. Yes, we're doing great. But I don't think it's it's definitely not an
Not for
expectation for
me.
me.
Just lay off.
Yeah, just sell me my house and let me loan. No.
No, it's like a nice personal touch,
Right.
but I don't have any expectations.
Yeah.
Like,
Are
I
you
would
getting
be
to-
like, why didn't they send me a Christmas? card?
I thought I meant something.
I like. I'm not gonna get upset.
So you're saying you
nice when you
didn't get
do.
your card?
No, I did,
Okay.
and that's why I'm here.
Good.
Christmas card. Yeah.
All right, Kristen.
And I remember my agent's name.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, after 3 years, I think I remember.
She had 2 kids in the time that
Yeah.
we were, yeah. Do you know how a buyer agent gets paid?
Shoot, I was hoping you were gonna ask me this, but isn't, it's just like a percentage of the house cost?
That's your final answer? Okay.
With a question mark at the end.
I wasn't as much involved with the financial ends of things. I help provide opinions on houses, and then I am lucky that my husband actually has purchased a house previously, and this is my first time, so I kind of
Heather, do
let
you,
him understand that and kind of
Sure.
translate it to me, and
so
then
you think it's
process it
based,
as needed.
it's a percentage of the house price?
Yeah,
Okay, Heather, how does
I
it?
thought that it was split, whatever. So when we sold our house, and bought houses and things, I think we were at 6% with Vince Malott, and I want to say that the buying agent or the selling agent got 3% and he got 3%. But I really don't know that that's how it still is.
Hmm.
And I really have no idea even what the percentage that the pay is anymore. I have no idea.
changing.
I
think
heard
saw
it's
something on the
changing,
news
but
or
I
something.
just didn't know how to believe what I heard, because I was like, really?
Yeah.
How can they do that? So,
Yeah, I
I wasn't sure, but I thought that they split the percentage of what was negotiated through the buyer and their agent,
Right.
or the seller and their agent.
So Christine, you've done this 8 times, you've done it in multiple states, so you have an
Yeah.
opinion, right?
I mean,
You know how
I
it is.
probably don't necessarily know more than anybody else, but I think that it's split between the 2 brokerages. And then whatever that that realtor's agreement is, they get an amount based off of that.
Right,
I think it probably depends everywhere you go.
Right.
I don't know that that's
okay. So,
common everywhere.
but it's based off the price of the house, and that's your opinion?
Right, so the way that I've always been told is that a percentage of, so we always know ahead of time, for us, it's always been 6 or 8%.
Mhm.
That it would go of the house, of the sale of the house would go to that brokerage, and then the realtor would get a certain amount of that from the seller and the buyer side. And whatever they agreed ton amount is would vary.
Okay, thank you.
Are you gonna give us the answer?
I'll let the broker answer this, so I don't get myself in trouble.
There's no standard amount. All fees are negotiable.
Yes, here we go.
Thanks, Justin.
You hear that, Heather?
Vegas, a percentage,
At the-
why I'm
at
here,
the-
why I'm here.
At the brokerage level, however, an independent agent may decide how little or much they choose to work for.
Okay.
And that's basically it. And, you know, a buyer's agent may decide the same thing about how much they need to pay them to not be with their family, the amount of time that it takes to help you and your family find a house. So it's trading, you know, those goods for services.
Right.
And, you know, a buyer's agent may say, I like these people, I'll do it for X%, or, pretty difficult, I think I'm gonna do a little more. You know, and you may be lucky enough that the listing agent and their seller subsidize your buyer's agent commission. But in the absence of that, you know, a buyer may be expected to make up some or all of that. It's all negotiable and it depends on the situation.
Thank you, Justin. So Christine, how did you find the houses to purchase? Was it, did you find them? Did your agent find them? Did your relatives point it out? How'd you find houses?
So my friends everywhere are constantly like, there's a sale, there's a house for sale. Like San Antonio right now is where most of my friends are like, check out these houses, and I'm like, not moving there. But generally, I have people that are consistently selling, like sending me properties that are for sale. Or I will go to my realtor that I've used in the past and been like, hey, I'm heading to your area. I need a day of your time to look at houses. This is the price range that I'm looking at. These are the houses that I've currently seen. It's going to be a rental property, so I need you to tell me whether or not these are good areas for rental properties and go from there.
Okay, great. Heather?
Realtor.com. I mean, really, I'm online mostly looking at stuff. If I'm going to look for stuff, it's online. Like I've been watching what's going on in Newville because there's not a lot in Big Spring. So our houses go very fast and I'm looking forward to that because we need to get out fast when we're ready to move. So I've just been keeping an eye on that through real estate or realtor.com. Sometimes I use some of the other housing search engines as well, but that's probably the main one that I'll go on.
Okay.
Yeah, we would get the notifications through you guys, but we also would stalk realtor.com and Zillow. And the nice thing about, I think it was mostly, well, I think it was on both of them, but they have the coming soon posts. So sometimes I felt like they came in a little sooner than the Iron Valley website. And that was especially important during COVID, I guess it was slightly post-COVID, once you could go look at things. Just because there were so many people trying to go see the houses. So like as soon as something would come on as a coming soon, we'd contact Chris and say, like, can we get on this list to go see the houses? Because sometimes if we waited for the posting to actually post, it was already full. So, anyway, that wasn't answered the question you were asking, but
Yep.
hopefully it can be helpful to somebody.
So Kristen, what are buyers and sellers' biggest fears about buying the real estate process, the whole process? What, you remember what concerned you the most?
Just like finding a house, being outbid, or again, not being able to get on their list. I remember there were some houses, or sorry, the like showing list. I remember there was a house that we wanted to go see and like, we were super responsive, but like by the time Nick found out that he had coverage at work, the spot was taken. So, just like making sure we're able to go see the houses that we want. And then there were, I think we put offers in on 6 houses, so, and like a lot of them were all cash offers that we could compete with as first time home buyers, so, yeah, those were my main ones. Let me just see, sorry, I jotted down notes, but I think those were the main ones that, yeah, overpay, we didn't want to overpay, which again is tricky in this market because the competition's so high, so, we wanted to be competitive, but not stupid. And the inspection situations, and again, that's kind of where we relied on the realtor. to identify things that might be wrong with the house or could come up as an issue later down the road, so we didn't go at the top of our budget and then find out that there's thousands of dollars worth of repairs that could have been avoided.
What's your fears? You're building a house, what fears do you have?
It's a totally different fear, to be honest with you, because there's such a price building a house that has nothing to do with realtors or anybody else. It has to do with me and how that looks and what changes have to be made to the house. But as far as a real estate standpoint and working with a realtor, I think I want somebody I just trust, because I don't know how this world works. And no matter how much you think you know how much real estate works and what you know and about your house and what you know about housing, I don't. And so I think at the end of the day, I want to just give it to you and walk away. And when you need me, you come get me. And that's kind of, I think, in the real estate, as working with a realtor, where I would be. I like to just be able to walk away and give it to somebody who knows what they're doing. If you have a question for me that I can answer, then I'm there. But I just need to give it to somebody that I trust and is going to do the best for me and my family, you know.
So I'll come to you with that question in a moment, but would any one of you buy a house without a real estate agent?
No,
Even with your experience, you would still want to use an agent? Because we go through pain sometimes thinking that we're not needed because our phone doesn't ring, right? Between clients, it could go weeks or months. And knowing that buyers is even the experience, you just bought a house, you've all done it, you still need us.
Yep.
The only time that I've been tempted.
What?
I know.
Wait,
Discussion. No, just
this is a private conversation.
no, like I said, we like totally relied on you for so many things with the house buying process. I have been tempted by auctions that popped up.
Why?
Wait.
Tell us why, because we hear this all the time. Go ahead.
Like sometimes the starting prices are so low and you just have no idea where they're gonna end up. And again, there have been so many houses where we like not gotten our hopes. Well, yeah, I mean, we put offers in on a bunch of houses and then it's like, well, maybe nobody wants this one, you know, like what can it hurt to just go and see what happens? But obviously we did not go that route. But again, that's like completely foreign to me, so I didn't know enough to kind of just blindly go into that.
Christine, any fears with buying?
With buying, no, because I'm
Selling?
pretty instinctual, even with selling, no, like I've sold a couple of houses, like instinctually, like I just trust my instincts. But I think for me, when it comes to having a realtor, like I could walk up to a door, you could open that door, I could look in and be like, this isn't my house. And I need my realtor to be like, let's just lock that door and not be like, well, let's just go look. No, like, I don't want to just go look. Like, I could just look in a door and it could be the layout of me walking into that door that tells me I don't want it. And I need my realtor to trust that I know myself well enough to not waste her time or his time and my time to walk me through a property that all I'm gonna do is walk around and talk about, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, because then that's not fun for you guys either, right? Like, so for me, like my realtor has to trust me just as I'm trusting them.
Right.
I'm
So-
sorry, I've done that.
So have I.
Chris can tell, like I can tell by your face that you're not thrilled. I'm like.
Yeah, there's like
"Sit
three
that
little
off."
lines right in the center for forehead. If you
I'm
watch
like,
your, everybody has body language. And if you watch your clients, you get to know them, you see that body language and we'd get in a house pretty quickly and I can tell by her expression, I'd say to
I have
her
no
husband,
poker
Nick, hey, you know, and
We were going between land and a house,
Mhm.
like, well, obviously there'd be a house on the land, but I wasn't a huge fan of having acreage, so sometimes with that, I feel like that's usually when you ran into that situation, but.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
um,
But I did feel bad wasting, like, I didn't wanna waste your time, obviously, but a lot of the houses, you have to go see it to like know, like, the
Right,
pictures look
yeah.
great, and then you get there and it's
Yeah,
just
they
kinda
do the
like.
fisheye and it's like, what? Oh, and then you walk in, you're like, wait, that room's like this big. Why did it look 3 times that size?
I'm living in New York for 10 years. I did not get fooled by the signs. Pictures, like if the microwave's 10 feet long, you know,
You knew.
something's going on.
Like, that's not
Yeah.
right.
So, Christine, how often, do you think your agent should check in with you during the home, search? And when you're under contract?
Oh,
So,
once we're in a contract, when there's a change, like for me, it's like, okay, if I'm selling, right, they schedule their inspection, okay, great. I don't need, okay, the inspection is completed, we'll have the inspection report, okay, great, I don't need like you to check in with me if there's dead air for 2 weeks because nothing's happening. Spend your time dealing with another client of yours that there's something happening, like, I don't need you to just check.
Be
in.
jealous, guys. She's
I
my
am
client.
so-
She's my client. You don't have her. Sorry.
Kyle,
You like that in your first property?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a person.
Yeah, like, cause I don't like wasting time, like, time is like money, right? Like, that's
Yep.
not just a saying. And I don't want you to waste your time sending me a text message or sending me an email to let me know that nothing is happening. Absence tells me nothing is happening.
Right.
okay,
Yeah, and I truly think personality is 99% of this whole
Yeah,
shebang. I think all of us have a different way of dealing with stress, dealing with buying, selling, raising kids, getting in a car, starting your car. You all
Yeah.
have your own like way of doing things. And I think probably your hardest job as realtors is to figure out who you're with and what that person's like. Cause I mean, I know I have 2 personalities. One's really awesome and the other one's kind of a nasty little thing sometimes. So my husband would be like, who am I with right now? You know? But I think you have to gauge that. I think you have to gauge that sometimes. And when you walk into somebody and you can tell, like, I'm right here, you will see everything written on my face.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a woman's trait, but I,
as long as you and Terry have the same attitude at the same time. Yeah.
Or not.
but I think it is, I just think it's really based on the personality of the people that you're
Yeah.
with and molding to those families. And
Understand.
what they're looking for and getting to know your client the best you can, no matter how many faces they have,
Mhm.
you know, so I think that's important.
Kristen,
To add on to that, I think it's kind of like when you go into a store and like a sales associate comes up to you and they're like, can I help you with anything? It's like, I'm the kind of person that likes to just kind of be like, no, I'm like, you know, just let me look. But Chris, you would check in about like maybe once a month if it's radio silence and say like, is there anything in search criteria that we should adjust? And like, I found that helpful, but I think if somebody contacted us like every week, it would be like, slow your, roll, like back off a little bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then at closing time, I did want to be updated on everything as it was moving along, so, 2 very different answers for different times, but, yeah.
okay,
So like once a
Um,
month, I guess if you have to give a time period when we're just searching, I guess once a month, but I guess people also aren't searching for a house for multiple years. So,
Just during COVID.
yeah,
it's COVID's fault.
It's COVID's fault, it wasn't your fault.
we tried.
what advice would you give a realtor on the listing appointment or an open house or showing a home or settlement day? So I guess this is more from a selling standpoint. You've sold a house yet? Okay. So Kristen, you get off on this question here. You don't have to answer. So what advice would you give a realtor on a listing appointment or an open house showing a home settlement day? It's your house.
Mhm.
What expectations are you setting for them?
I mean, come to me with offers that are reasonable, right? Like, if somebody's coming to you with like 60, 70,000 below what I'm asking, don't waste my time or yours, because I'm not interested in that. But if they're coming with a cash offer, then I'm more fluid in what it is I want you to bring to me.
You know that a real estate agent's obligated to show you that offer, even though you say, I don't want to see it, they're obligated to present that offer. That's part of our,
In Pennsylvania.
in Pennsylvania, yes, I don't know
I was
about.
gonna say, in other states, I know that like my realtor will be like, hey, we had some BS offers, but we're still waiting.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, if you're obligated, then I'm gonna listen.
30 seconds.
Text it to me, hey, here's this offer, I already know your answer. It's
I'm
fine.
calling you a trash.
Just text me and say you did it. Good.
Subject line, you can delete this.
70,000 below, subject line, no message.
All right,
But I also want a realtor that's gonna say to me, hey, I know that when we put this house on the market, I told you realistically we could get this range. But things have changed in the 60 days. So we need to open that up a little bit, right? Cause I mean, I understand that like the market like fluctuates, right? And this range is what we could realistically, what I think we could sell it for. In January might not be the same thing come April or May. So
Okay.
come to me with that as well, even if it's like bad news.
all right. Anything to add?
I mean, I think for my biggest thing with selling my house is, again, I think my real estate agent knows what they're doing and I don't have to worry about pricing because I know who I'm dealing with and I trust that person, which is a big deal. And I think that has to be number one with anybody who is in a relationship of any kind. You have to trust the other party.
Yeah,
My biggest issue with when we move is figuring out how to open my house up to people because I have a disabled daughter and I have 2 dogs and it's a lot to get in and out. So I need to know that I don't have to pack up and get my daughter out of the house in 20 minutes. And so I think when we're ready to sit down and sell, that's going to be my biggest concern is how are we going to get Callie out of the house for hours at a time? And what does that look like? So for me, it's a totally different
Yeah.
type of scenario. That's my biggest scenario is like, how do we do it? You know, so when we go to sell, that'll be a conversation that's the most important to me, figuring out how not to disrupt her day as much as possible.
Right, and that is your agent's responsibility, they're an extension of you.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, you know, our business partner here is, we'll make sure that happens.
Yep.
That's-
I know that.
Because, that's gonna be very important to her.
Sorry, Kyle.
Yeah. So,
Yes.
Kristen, where was it here? How do you feel about social media posts that agents make?
Okay, so
Oh, boy.
I honestly like I don't know, I go on Instagram, but it's always like stupid videos. I don't like go on social media to look for houses, like I've had somebody send me some, like back in the day, they sent me a couple that they just happened to stumble across, but I haven't, sorry if you post things on social media, I've never seen.
There's the answer. Post things.
Facebook and then Instagram, I feel like it's just like random stuff that pops up.
Okay,
And I don't go on the other, I don't TikTok or whatever.
okay.
But I'm sure they're great if you have those.
I don't know that we're friends on Facebook.
It changed after.
But
I go on like once every
I was
couple
gonna
of
say,
years.
but obviously
Well,
she's
it's-
never on.
it's not just about your agent, it's
Right.
about real estate at whole, because you're all on social media, you see
Yep.
the videos, the things that are going, what's your opinion? Does that help you decide on looking at a house, picking a real estate agent? Is it silly? Is it helpful? What is it?
Helps me decide who not to pick. I'm saying there's other agencies that just post too much, let's say. Like every other thing is something from one of their real estate agents. You know, I just think that social media is good for some things, but I think it can be excessive. And I think when you get, and not just with real estate, I have a friend that a person that I know that I've just like completely stopped following because all she does is post her business. There's no personal anything. It's buy. And I just think as somebody who gets on social media to follow people that I don't always see every day and I want to see their lives, all I'm getting now is all these ads from all these different places, including real estate agents.
That's a good.
So I think it just gets to the point where social media has become so much of just selling things to people and you don't have that personal connection with your friends anymore. So,
Can
Do you
I
want me to
add to that? Oh,
Sure.
sorry.
No.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, that's very true. Like, I have a friend that sells essential oils. Okay, so like,
that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about.
yeah,
Mhm.
and like she has multiple like posts on her story during the day, but then like there's also personal things sprinkled in there. So it's like, I wouldn't bother looking at it if it was just her business stuff, because I don't
Right.
care about it. But like, since there are personal things sprinkled in there, then I find it interesting. And I know that was just like a small part of
Yeah,
what
but
you were
that's kind of
saying,
what I'm
but
talking
yeah,
about. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, I.
And
I
you're
know
not one of
that's a
them.
Personal.
I was just trying to.
Yeah.
Justin,
And another part of it was, social media is an extension of you and your reputation. And as I've said before, I'll say again, people's strongest sense is their sense of BS. And that if you are trying to whitewash your reputation on social media, a lot of people still know what you are, who you are, what you're about. So be authentic, because no matter what you put out there, people are gonna know whether or not you're being authentic.
Yeah.
And personal or not, like if you're in a business, your personal life carries through to your business, so. I mean, just know you can have a personal site and a real estate or a business of any kind, but on your personal site, what's happening, we all see that. And it matters, so,
anything else to add to that? That's all right. It's already been erased, I'm sure, Terry. The recording has ended.
You erased everything with that.
Be at my door in about an hour when I get home.
Do you expect settlement gifts from your agents?
I don't, but I've always gotten one. So I think it's like just a nice gesture.
I mean, I don't, I think I got one. I think Emily gave us something for the bottle of wine or something, which was really
Yep.
sweet. I don't expect it.
I don't.
No, keep your money, please.
Yeah.
Worked hard for it. You know what I'm saying?
Especially
Like,
if
that's
you're
how I
noted.
feel like it. I mean, unless you really want to buy me something, I mean, come on.
You would have the best clients.
You have no idea.
Kristen,
This falls in the Christmas card category. It's great, but I am not gonna be upset if I do get it.
Right.
It's a gift, like,
It's
you can't
appreciated.
ever expect somebody to give you a gift that's kind of.
If anything, I feel like we need to gift you guys.
see, we're right there with you, right? Raising hand. Okay, record that part, put it out.
What's the other part? Record that one. I'll be back in.
Yeah.
Back on the good side.
Kristen, what services were most valuable to you as a client? Is there any, maybe I should clarify that, mortgage, title, home inspector, all the things that the real estate agent may have suggested to you, are those valuable to you or not?
So I think whenever I've gone in to purchase a home, I've already been like pre-qualified, so the whole mortgage thing I already had in place. But I definitely think for me, inspections, like if you recommend 2 or 3 companies to me, I'm going with somebody that you recommend for an inspection. Like, I'm not trying to find somebody myself, because I could find somebody, but if you have experience, you'll know whether they could get in there quickly for me. You know the type of job they do, like, so for me, like, I'm very particular with certain things. And as my realtor, you're gonna know that, and you might be able to guide me towards inspectors that are gonna, I know that there's a standard, but some people pay attention in different areas. And if you know that X, Y, and Z are super important to me, and this realtor focuses a little bit more, or not realtor, this inspector focuses more there, you're gonna guide me to the inspection that is gonna be better suited for what it is that my priorities might be. Like, I know that there's a standard that they have to mark off the boxes, but I also know that inspectors don't all do things exactly the same. And I rely on my realtor to get me connected to an inspector that is gonna align with where my priorities are. Like, I don't care about paint, I don't care about molding, like, whatever. I care about foundation, I care about electrical, I care about plumbing, I care about roofing. If I have a pool, I care about the pool, like, I need inspectors that are gonna really like heavily delve into those things a little bit more detailed than surface or superficial damages to a property.
Anything to add, ladies?
You were saying services that are most, I mean, obviously like scheduling, when you're going to look for a house, getting on the schedules and
Well, no, the services as far as,
Oh.
after you're under contract.
Oh, after
or,
under contract.
Yeah, inspectors, the mortgage company, the title company, all those things that we try to guide you.
You covered everything.
You covered it all? Okay, great. Thanks, Christine. All right. What do you think's not important? From the realtor's perspective, did they provide things that just weren't important? Information, anything like that?
Not that I've ever had that happen. I kind of feel like if they're calling me, it's important
Yeah.
for the most part. I never
Yeah.
really felt like I was being called with trivial information or,
They're not oversharing?
no.
Okay, so the
no.
information when they, for the most part, when they call,
Yeah,
it's on point.
not for me anyway.
Okay.
I always just felt it was, what it needed to be for, and it wasn't, something that didn't have basis to call me.
Okay. Kristen, what criteria would you use to choose an agent? You're sort of forced on me, didn't really have a choice.
I mean, I don't know. I don't need new criteria because we're coming back. We're ever selling the house, but no, just, I mean, the most important things that we felt like that we valued from working with you, honestly, was just, again, the trust, knowing that you're super knowledgeable about things and being able to, like, with a lot of the houses, there weren't with the offers, like you wouldn't be able to get an inspection. So like, I know you're not an inspector, but again, just to have like an initial overview of the house and get the open and honest feedback on like what could be costly down the road or where issues might lie that again could get us in trouble. I forget what the question was. And I ran.
I think you already covered that earlier.
So bring it back to it's trust that we look for in a realtor, but I mean, that's hard to gauge just from like searching for someone online. So I guess like the good reputation, finding out through word of mouth of trustworthy people.
Right.
Okay, sorry.
That's
I
all
brought
right.
it-
You're
I
doing
brought it
great.
back. I
Okay.
reeled myself back in.
So, how much time do you think it should take to find a house? You can't answer this one. How much time?
How much time should it take to find a house?
Yeah, I mean, you make the decision, I wanna buy a house.
Mhm.
What's your expectation? What kind of timeline are you thinking about? Now, the past couple years with COVID and the craziness, it changed everybody's opinion how long it takes, but can we go back a little bit before that? What did you expect? Was it,
So for me, I expected to like spend an entire day walking through homes, right? Like I expected like 3 or 4 hours, walk through homes. Hopefully 2 days max. In the situation where I bought my house here, we did that. We didn't find anything. I went on a vacation and she found a home and her and my husband walked through the home. He described it over the phone. We put in an offer. And I want to say that house wasn't even on the market yet.
Just hit.
It just hit the
Just hit.
market. So for me, it might be like a lot of hours, but I feel like generally within like 2 days, 3 days, I have almost always found my home. Probably 6, maybe 8 houses. I have found the house that I ultimately purchased.
okay,
So 6 to 8 houses, no matter how long it takes to get through 6 to 8 houses.
I would love to do it in a day and a half. This
Yeah.
way it's a little bit of your time, a little bit of my time, but usually generally for me, it's like the 6 to 8 house range that I walk through and I find what it is that I'm looking for.
so now it's 6 to 8 weeks. It's,
I don't have time for that.
I know.
We
want
6
all
to
your
8
friends.
weeks.
well, it depends, like Kristen and her husband,
Like what's available.
right,
Today in Cumberland County,
Mhm.
there's 12 new houses on the market.
Oh.
And out of the whole county.
Right. But that's the thing, right? Let's say like out of those 12 houses, 8 of those houses meet my criteria. I expect you to bring me into those 8 houses and I would make a decision. I'm not playing games.
Yes, I'm with you.
And if somebody else gets into it first, right, obviously that's going to happen, or if they outbid me, that's out of your control, that's out of my control, because if my budget is what I'm setting my budget at, it doesn't matter if somebody else
Right.
wants more. They obviously want it more than I do if they're willing to spend more for it.
dissenting opinions? No,
We Try.
We
No,
tried.
right.
We tried.
But you were also like,
Take 3
you were
years.
also like COVID, right? Like I
Yeah.
purchased my house, what was it, 2019?
Yeah.
Right
right
before
before.
COVID hit, right? So
Yeah.
like, we were like, all right, we're ready to buy a house. I asked somebody, they connected us. We spent 2 days looking at a house. I went away. The next day a house came on the market. My husband, they went, he told me about the house over the phone. I purchased the house and then I didn't, you know, I wanted to make changes to it. I knocked down a bunch of walls. I redid some bathrooms and here we live.
Yeah, Kristen's I went to 3 different brokerages in the time that I was working with them, so the times were a lot different than
Right, right.
of trying to help people
And
find
I
a
think that
house.
matters
And it's-
more.
It sure
than-
did.
I mean, I just think that's huge in general.
Yeah,
The fact that there's nothing on the market
That
and
changes
And I
everything.
think you have to, again, you know, I feel like a lot of this comes back to the personality of the people you're working with. You know, you're gonna find people where they don't want to take the time, and then you're gonna find people
want
who are
here.
gonna want to take the time.
Right.
And I think it's all in expectations of what you want in a house too.
Right.
If I want like something that's just not available, I'm gonna wait 3 years because I don't have a
Right.
choice.
Yeah,
And I think that's all in your clients, what they're looking for. And it could take 3 years, it could take 2 weeks for you to find
Right.
what you want.
right.
Right.
Um,
It depends what you're looking for and if it's
We
available.
couldn't afford what we initially, like, during that span of time, prices went up so much
Right,
that we
right.
realized we couldn't get the land and the house size that we wanted, so
That's exactly what we.
I ended up getting what I wanted,
Yeah.
but.
Terry has some questions online.
So when selling a home,
Mhm.
what is the main thing that you're looking for? Are you looking for price or are you more concerned with the terms of the contract?
So when I have sold homes in the past, it was very much find a price that my realtor says to me, hey, this is what it could go for. If I don't want that price, I'm not selling that house, right? Like if that's less than I want, I'm not selling it because it's nobody's fault, right? That my expectation is here. But I think for me, it's very much the price. It has to be the right price. It has to be the right time.
I think price is number one. I think
Yeah.
anybody selling a house, you want to get the most out of it. You have people to pay.
Mhm.
You have another mortgage probably that you're going into. But I think also just making sure that, oh God. I totally lost my whole train of thought just went away. I'll come back to it when I think of it.
I haven't sold a house yet, but I think, price is important and
Yeah.
kind of along with what you were saying, like, if it's not worth putting the house up, if the price that you can get for it isn't realistic.
Yeah, for what I want.
Or if you
Yeah.
need to get a certain amount and you
Yeah.
just can't.
Yeah,
I mean, you
right.
don't want to go upside down. That
You don't
is
want to still owe
the
money.
last thing you should have to do
Right,
with
like if you have a
property.
mortgage
Yeah.
and you want to sell and you can't cover your mortgage, that's a waste.
Don't be a people pleaser,
Yeah.
be realistic.
Right.
So you guys had mentioned earlier that you've heard that there have been changes that are
Mhm.
coming to the world of real estate, which yes and no, we'll leave it at that. But one of the biggest changes for us as agents is prior to us being able to show homes starting later in the year is going to be that we must have buyer's agency agreements. We must have contracts. So Christine, one of the things you had mentioned is to interview an agent,
Mhm.
you would go out, you would shop a home and decide if it was your agent. How do you feel about having to sign a contract with somebody in order to be able to go out and see a home?
How long is the contract for?
Well, that depends. That's up to you as the client.
It could be a house, it could be a day, be a month, be a year.
So we would, like, I would decide essentially.
Mhm.
So I can make you sign a contract saying that you're gonna show me one house.
Mhm.
And then you show me that one house, our contract is over.
Mhm.
That feels like a waste of time for you to build up a contract. So I would probably,
Right.
so I would probably reconsider that I wanna go and look at a house. I would probably spend a little bit more time in your office having some conversations with you,
Right.
Good answer.
looking over maybe some houses, like if you're allowed to, like on the computer, look at a couple of houses that meet what it is that I'm looking for, and I would probably ask you to just tell me a little bit about what you see in those pictures that might be financially concerning, and then depending on like your willingness to do that, I would probably sign a contract, and I think like 3 to 6 months would be a reasonable amount of time for me to be in a contract with somebody that sat down with me probably 30 minutes to Yeah, I think I would probably go like 3 to 6 month contract to work with you.
Okay, good answer.
And that was not our idea.
Yeah, that's dumb. Sorry. I mean, I'm not even in the position of saying that, but that's just crazy to me. I don't
Yeah.
think that I could, in my right consciousness, say to you, show me a house, we'll sign on that house, and then I'll decide if I like you.
No.
It's kind of mean.
Well-
It's a waste of time, right?
Well, if you think it's a waste of time, but what if you didn't have that agreement, you saw the house,
Mhm.
and then you went and saw Jen over here who's gonna ask the next question, and she writes the contract. I spent time showing you that
Yeah, but you
property.
showed me that property. Why
Right.
would I go to somebody else?
Oh,
Good
that's a
question.
Great question.
I'm sure
It happens all the time.
All the time.
I was gonna say, like, I'm sure that probably does happen, but I don't know. I feel like even if I don't love your personality, if I love that home, I'm not gonna screw you over. Right? And that's how I view that.
Objection, leading the witness.
Jen has questions.
You guys had said you kind of look on Realtor.com and, you know, sites like that when you're looking for a house. And so sometimes some of us, get calls from some of those sites to go show a property. And to his point now, you know, let's just say I'm on the other end of that call. And I say to you, in order to show you this property, I need to sign this buyer agency contract. And what would you say?
I mean, I totally see what you're saying.
Yeah.
This is how I bought my property that we're building on. I mean, I called Emily and Emily met us out there, and I didn't know Emily from him or her or anybody else, but because she was the listing agency or listing agent, I felt more compelled to go to her and
I'm
not go
I'm
find
not the
somebody.
listing agent for the house you want to see.
Somebody's just calling you to say they see this house.
Right.
I probably wouldn't do it that way because my personality is to call whoever's on that window and say, okay, well, Jill Smith is the agent. I'm gonna call Jill and get her opinion on this. And since she's the agent, maybe I sign a contract with her. But I'm probably not gonna call just a random agent to show me a house.
So if
Me.
if I popped up like my picture and,
Sure.
I'm the best agent in York County. and
Okay.
I'm able to show you this house, call me.
Yes. I would call you, and then I think, like Christine said, I think if it came down to a contract situation, which I'm just now hearing about this, I think I'd have to sit down and talk to you. Although I'm the type of person to, if I see something I like, I don't really take time to give a crap about how that
Right.
looks.
Absolutely.
So I might say to you, I know this house is quick and it's gonna be quick. I'm gonna sign with you for 24 hours because I wanna see this house. I don't know how I would react to that. And I think it would depend on the situation and how quickly I wanted to see that particular house. Because in this market, especially where we live,
Right.
you don't have time to waste.
Yeah.
So, you know,
I think a big part of it's gonna be how the approach of the agent to the person on the other end of the phone
Sure.
and saying, you need to sign with me. Oh, I don't.
oh, no,
Right.
right.
Right, you know,
right.
and it's whether or not
So how
you're being
would,
forced,
how would-
right?
like, in your opinion?
I think, how
would
do you
like
say
to
that?
be
Right.
Approach with
Right, how do
that?
you say something
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah.
I mean, but this is the new policy, right? Or the new standard,
Right.
whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Hey, look, to show
Outline
you
that.
this home, regulations in Pennsylvania
Unfortunately,
require
yes.
that. You sign this piece of paper, I'm gonna explain to you what it is, and then,
Yeah, because
because if I'm in there, right, and now you happen to be the person that calls me. And this is the policy, this is the standard, this is regulations. Whether I go to you or somebody else, I still need to sign that paper. So if you explain to me, hey, regulations, whatever, I would be quick to say, okay, could we meet in your office so that we can have a conversation? Could you tell me a little bit about this property on a computer? And then I'll sign it. Like, I'd probably be very quick to want to hear you walk me through that property before I sign anything, even if it can't be in person.
it's so fresh right now because it hasn't gone into effect yet, but
Mhm.
it's coming. And we're worrying about it, but once it's in effect and all the real estate agents are requiring it,
Yeah,
the prospective buyers are gonna become accustomed.
it's just gonna
that
be
That's the
normal.
rule, right?
And just to be clear to our consumers and everyone, the settlement that's in negotiations right now
Mhm.
hasn't been approved.
Right.
So it hasn't been finalized and
Right.
therefore Pennsylvania Real Estate Commission hasn't decided what exactly is required. So
Yeah,
we don't know exactly how to apply that standard. We're kind of in a gray area, which no one really likes to be in,
right.
but it'll.
I would say the less pushy you are, the better, and I think that's with any salesperson
Any-
for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Like even walking into a furniture store, please don't run up to me when I walk in the
Right.
door. I haven't even looked at the couch yet to tell you what I like, you know, like car salesman, same thing. I like to, don't like get on the phone and say, well, I can't show you this unless you sign a contract.
Yeah,
Walk me through that, you know? Unfortunately, this is what's happened now in our industry, and I have to
Mhm.
have you sign a paper to protect myself and you as the consumer.
before
I'm
I can
gonna
bring
be
one
way more
forward.
open to that than I'm gonna be, well, I can't show you unless you sign a contract with me.
Yeah,
There's a way different
right.
tone of voice there and a way different tone of showing somebody that you didn't ask for this and we didn't ask for you to have this on you, so. But explain it, and I think it'll be fine. I do.
Yeah.
I think there's not gonna be a choice of it, you know?
Is there an opportunity with these, and I know this is still all hypothetical, but like with the contracts, if you aren't satisfied with somebody to possibly like end the contract? Just. I
That's-
don't know, 'cause
Nope.
now.
It's
It's one thing if you're like, you're stuck with me forever until you buy a house versus like, hey, here's the contract, like, we'll sign it, we can like discuss later down the road, you know, how you think the relationship is going and.
I really
reevaluate or
think there
something like
should
that.
be, and I think
Yeah.
that that's something that serves the consumer better than forcing them into a
Mhm.
contract.
Mhm.
I think that it should be something that there should be a bill of rights to the consumer
Right,
that like, hey, if this isn't working out with 10 days notice,
Right.
we can go ahead and end this relationship, and, you know, if we give notice in writing or something
Yeah.
like that.
Mhm.
As opposed to, cause I've had clients burned by that. They met somebody once
Mhm.
Mhm.
on Zillow who showed them a house in Lancaster, and then they bought a house with me in Newville, and they forgot that that guy existed, but we still had to pay him a referral because they had signed that piece of paper and there was no way out of it.
That happened to my friend once.
And that burns both agents and consumers,
Right,
so.
Yeah.
And I think as agents, you should have the right to release a person.
Yeah,
I mean, we are not all sweet and cute like we are right here.
I'm surprised.
We
you
could
guys
be
didn't get rid
mean,
of
you
that.
know, like, people are not just really nice when they do this stuff.
Yeah.
You guys should have that option as well.
Really?
To say, listen, I don't like you. I don't care how much money you have.
And if you really hate somebody, you don't wanna pay them
Yeah,
either.
no, I don't want to pay you, but I think there should definitely be a
Yeah.
termination clause in any
Yeah.
contract.
I mean,
any
I have to
contract.
sign a contract, like the realtor just said, hey, like this is what we do, we sign a contract, it's a year long, and my husband and I were like, you know what, fine, yeah, we'll sign it.
Right.
And on paper and in conversations, he was great. But once he started walking us through houses, he got pretty bossy with me and I was like, I'm done. And he literally said, okay, you know what, though, you can't go someplace else. And I was like, I have a year, no house. Am I that desperate for
Yeah.
that I can't wait? If it's not my house, like I very much believe if it's mine, it's mine. It was supposed to be mine. I will have it. So if me and you don't click
Mhm.
and you're not willing to release me, I guarantee you that I'm not buying a house with you as my realtor.
Mhm.
Cause I could wait, like I could wait to buy a house. Like there is no house that is 100% mine that I need to be tied to you to have it. So I think that that's also like a personality thing, right? Like
I
I'm,
think it all.
it's
is
all
so much
personality.
based on
and as a realtor, not only am I interviewing you, but in my opinion, you're interviewing me. And if you're interviewing me and my bossy, my direct, my clear expectations of what I'm looking for and what I expect out of you are not your cup of tea, then I advise you not to get into contract.
buy the ticket, ride the ride.
Walk away.
That goes both ways because a person buying a home could be torture for you
Yes,
just as much as you could be
exactly.
torture for them.
I've heard that.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
like, it's just the reality of what it is.
Yeah.
Are there questions?
Anybody?
What, a quiet group, I can't believe it.
I had a
Wow.
couple of comments that like kind of, I think, pull together what you were saying, which is set the expectation early and make sure that everyone's on the same page.
Yeah,
That's all we can
And
do.
if something changes, amend those expectations.
right,
And there's no harm in that,
right.
right? Like, I'm just a truth teller. I didn't write the story. It's just, this is the way it is.
Everybody can come back to ground zero. and start
Everybody
can
again.
come back.
There's always room for second chances and
Yep.
things people say things they don't exactly mean, when you're dealing with this kind of money and this kind of, it's
Stress.
it's stressful and every person, I don't care who you are, we all have a story of something in our lives that is stressful. And it doesn't make mine any less stressful than yours or yours. It's just what it is. And I think at the end of the day, we're all just looking to breathe at the
Yeah,
end of the day and
yeah.
say, I made it, and get through the next day. And if we can all just be kind and care about each other and that we're each doing something for each other. Yes, you're selling or buying us a home or however that looks, but at the same time, you're human and
Yep.
you should be treated like humans. You're not our slaves. You're not a slave to this industry. It's,
Yeah,
and I think it goes both ways. And I think you should have as much right as we do as a client to
Terminate.
say, I don't like this person and I don't think we're gonna get along. And I think that we'd be suited better with other people.
It's
you might
excellent
be, you might
point.
be a better fit for Bob.
But Bob, yeah, let's go with Bob.
It's an excellent point that
Yeah.
we all have different personalities and you guys get along great with Terry. Maybe more so than, if you have been working with me or Christy, or Mike or John or Bob.
Bob,
Bob,
Um,
Bob sounds great.
right. So we attract the people that we're gonna work best with.
right.
And don't force that relationship, otherwise nobody's gonna be happy.
Right.
And then one of the other things that you all said was not to have a pushy agent, but
Mm.
that agent should understand that they are there to serve you. It's not the other way around. Like, you're not there for their benefit, they're here for your benefit. And as long as that agent understands that they're here for your benefit, everything's gonna be okay.
Cause your reputation is gonna carry on long after, like that contract ends, even if I buy that house. If I don't have a good relationship with you, when somebody says something to me, I might have gotten into the house I wanted. I don't like the experience to get there, and that is going to be shared. I hear people talk about realtors that they've had all the time. They're like, yeah, I would never recommend this person. Sure, I'm in that home, but I would never suggest you spend any amount of time no home is worth it. So your reputation is going to carry on well past when I sign that line and I now own that home.
Well, unhappy clients or tell 10 people,
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
happy clients.
Before happy people, it's no different than a furniture review or a
Yep.
car review.
Yep.
You're mad, you're gonna go tell somebody. You're happy, you're like, yeah, you
Right,
didn't have
because
to
of
tell
what
it,
it
we don't wanna
was.
talk about it,
We
but-
have a family friend, actually, who is a realtor, and we went with.
Hey,
You
that,
know, like-
I think sometimes going with friends is
Yeah,
harder, to
Yeah,
be
they-
honest with you,
they actually
because the
sold my pop-up
expectations are
house.
different.
Mhm.
yeah.
And then you become like, I don't know.
And
I
then you're
just-
like,
I
oh, but
am-
she's my
Yeah, I
friend.
can't do
Yeah,
it. I
yeah.
have a really hard time intermixing any of that, right?
Yeah.
In this situation, I don't have a problem with it, but there are many other things that I would have a problem with that.
Yeah.
And I think it depends on the person, the friend as well.
First.
Yeah.
If you
This
become
person-
friends after,
Yeah,
right,
right.
then it's different
right,
if you go
totally
back to
different.
buy a house
Totally
again,
different.
it's
This
different.
person
than-
sold my pop-up's house, and like, I was talking to my dad, I was like, oh yeah, like, we were thinking we'd have this person be our realtor, or I was thinking we'd have this person be our realtor, and my dad was like, I don't know.
But did you hear what she said? How many people here got upset when a relative or a friend didn't use you and they went somewhere,
It's
everybody,
probably better.
I'm sure it's
Yeah.
hard because I know I would take it personally too, because that's who I am as a person, but
Yeah.
as a person who has had friends that I have used for things, there has been strains on those relationships in some points because something didn't go my way or something didn't go their way and it was
Mhm.
supposed to, and I don't ever want to lose another friend over business like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It's not worth it to me when I can hire somebody here who doesn't have anything to do with my life And if we end up on bad terms, I don't ever have to see you again. And I'm,
The lemon
you know what I
house.
mean? And not to say that I don't ever want to see you again, but some personalities just, when you go into business together, it's totally different than being a friend.
Yeah.
And I just don't want to lose any more friends that way. So I try to go
Yeah.
outside of my
Yeah.
scope.
Okay, so I have one more question from home. One of the changes, and again, it's not a change, but it's the perception of the change.
Okay.
That are coming down the line is now a seller no longer has to, and never had to before, let me make that very clear. A seller never had to pay a buyer's agency commission before.
Okay.
It was the norm, it was the standard. So that is what is assumed. Now it is becoming more prominent, I guess is the word I'm looking for, that it doesn't have to be paid, which means our conversations are changing. Because once upon a time, us as buyer's agents would say to a buyer, yeah, it's free to use me. The seller pays my commission. When in reality, it's not. So this now is going to change to put things back on buyer's plates, where the buyer may end up having to pay to use their buyer's agent. As people who have bought homes, how do you feel about that? And would you be willing?
So what is the difference? Like right now, right? Like if I buy a house.
Mhm. Right now, if you buy a house, the way
It's been-
the way it's been, the normal perception is that an agent, right, that a seller has paid 6% or
Right.
7 or whatever.
Yep.
And that is split
Mhm.
50-50 between a buyer's agent and a listing agent.
Okay.
Now it is more clearly disclosed,
Mhm.
so to speak, again, which these are conversations that have always been had. But now a seller can say, I don't want to pay anything to a buyer's agent. I'm only
Okay.
paying you to list my home. That's
Okay.
it. Which means if an agent brings a buyer to my house,
Mhm.
that buyer has to pay
Whatever that percentage is.
to use their agent.
So now,
correct.
if the house is say $100,000,
Mhm.
I now have to pay $106,000 to give you your 6%.
Or
whatever
3
the
or 4,
percentage
you
is.
got
I'm
it,
just
you got it.
making up. I would be okay with that because you're providing a service for me. Right? So like, if I'm in sales, so I make percentages. I provide a service, I make a percentage, right? You provide a service, I pay a percentage. It just doesn't seem that far-fetched to me.
It's not far-fetched. I think
To pay we pay for services all the
Right.
time. Everything we do is paying for a service.
I think it's more the fact that what the common knowledge has been was that this is how it's been. So
Yeah.
now when you're sitting down and you're saying, I need a buyer's realtor,
Yeah,
and you're gonna go buy a home. If you go to buy that home and your realtor looks at you and says, this seller is not paying any fees to the buying agent.
mhm.
I think fair is fair. If I'm hiring you, I'm hiring you.
Yeah,
I can't rely on the seller at this point
To be
because things are
responsible.
changing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that was ever the right way to do it, because that's the way it was. So I just
Right.
never questioned it. But if this is the way it's changing, if I'm
Yeah.
hiring you for a service, then I'm gonna pay you. I
Right.
can't justify
I can't,
hiring somebody and not
and then
paying.
being mad.
Yeah, and then
To
being
pay
mad.
them.
And then being mad because you want money.
To be-
Anyone,
yeah.
you wanna work for free? Great. I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I would be.
I don't
I
work for
can't
free.
imagine not paying somebody.
Yeah.
So I think
Or
again,
being
though,
upset about it.
you
Yeah.
have to find those individuals that, you know.
I think like the balance of power has been like going back and forth so much, like with buyers and sellers these days, like somebody just told me it changed, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah,
But
I
I
think
feel like-
And that conversation could change again,
Yeah.
depending on the market.
Right,
If we
yeah.
end up having, more listings than buyers, now the listing agent,
Right,
the sellers may be paying buyers commissions again to incentivize that traffic.
Right,
Exactly.
So it
it's
could
all
go
how it
either way.
goes, the
Yeah.
market.
As buyers, how would you feel about paying for a single showing or package of showings as a service right there? If it comes down to, rather than paying a buyer's agent 3%, how would you feel about the possibility of paying, say, a couple $100 per showing or a couple $1,000 for a package of showings for like 8 houses over 2 days? I'll do that for $1,000. Does that?
I don't know if I would.
So-
I wanna
No,
be
I mean,
excited
I-
about it.
It's looking at a different perspective a little bit, but
That,
it does, it puts it in a different perspective.
it does put it in a different perspective, but my thing is, what happens if we spend 4 hours, I pay you $1,000. None of those houses, right, in viewing match in picture. Now I need to look at another 8 houses. Am I gonna get a discount off the other 8 houses, or am I still paying $1,000 for the next round of 8?
See, this all
There's
came
a lot
about
of
because of
crazy
lawsuits, right? Department of Justice and certain
Yeah.
consumer groups want buyers to have full control over how their buyer's agents are paid. And part of this
Why?
is because they want to encourage different options and less fixed pricing. And this is one of the options that may arise over the next year, 2, 10, 20. And we're trying to, as an industry, figure out what our consumers want. Like,
Right.
all right, if you don't like paying us a flat 3 or 2.5 or 2 or 10, like, do
Percent.
you want to pay per house? Do you want to pay per contract? Do you want to pay
Yeah,
per offer?
if you were to say to me, right, we're gonna charge you $2,000, right, for 4 days for looking at houses, or for 6 months until we find you a home, but we guarantee that we're gonna do everything that we can to get you into a home that matches this criteria that I have dictated. Like, I would be comfortable giving you money for that, but then isn't that gonna short you guys out of money?
We're trying to work out the
Because-
math.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, 'cause you sell a house that's $250,000 and you're normally making 3%.
Oh, no, I
Now-
said, I'd show you houses for 2,000. I'm not writing the contract.
But you see what I'm saying? Like, but
Yeah.
then what happens, right? Now
Yeah.
you're showing me houses, this is the price range I'm looking at, 200, 250, whatever. Aren't you getting shorted in a flat rate?
Well,
dollar
so let
upfront?
me
Like, that
ask.
To me is crazy.
So let's just take the norm, right? A home is listed for 6%. 6%, it's split
Yeah.
50-50, which means I'm as a buyer's agent, I'm making 3%, or as a seller's agent, I'm making 3%. As someone who's in sales, some, people who've been around it, do you think that's fair? Do you think 3% is too much? Or do you think it's not enough for the things that we do?
So,
Sorry, I do
I
have
don't-
something on the previous thing that.
Yeah.
do I think it's too much?
Like what,
3%?
like what's your thoughts on that amount? Do you think?
So I think that it really like depends, right?
Mhm.
Cause I feel like
That's our answer to everything.
you spent 3 years looking at homes
Mhm.
and you get 3%.
I got 0 until we closed.
But what, yes, but
Right.
at closing, right, that's your payday,
Right,
right?
right.
And you get 3%. So you worked 3 years for 3%.
Right.
She worked 2 days in one house for
And on
3%.
vacation at the time.
She was on vacation.
Oh, you're on vacation, okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
she worked 2 days in one house at 3%. Now, the dollar amount of those houses is irrelevant in the grand scheme of things, right? Because it's time.
Mhm.
Yeah. When you
If
look
you
at
would
it,
have been, if
when
you
you
would
look
have
at
worked
time.
3
No,
days
Terry earned it.
for 3%, she probably earned it. I'm a lot.
She's one of my favorites. I love her.
You also said before we started this, you sold a house for 1 point,
I did 1.8 million,
for how much commission?
6%. And what's 6% of 1.8 million?
A whole lot.
140,000, 30, 140,000?
138.
How long did it take to sell the house?
Oh, that sounds quick.
Okay,
Yeah.
was it worth it? To
For
s-
me,
To
it was
sell it
worth
quick,
it.
to sell it quick, was it
Well,
worth
but
it?
it didn't sell quick outside of what I wanted. Right? Like, he said, okay, this is gonna sell somewhere between 1.6 and 2.1. And my sister, my brother and I said, we'll be happy if we get 1.79. We got 1.8, right? Us, so it's quick, it was a matter of days. We could have waited. We probably could have gotten the higher end of what it is that we were looking for, but we were looking to get rid of it. It was right at that dollar amount that we wanted. Our listing agent, he did a lot of work though. Like, he was at that house 7 hours a day showing this property for that time. He had that house listed everywhere in New York City that it could have possibly have been listed. He had to turn people away from seeing the house because so many people wanted to get in there. So to me, right, he had to split that with the person's realtor that purchased it. They did 4%, 2%. He did the majority of the work, right? that buyer's agent showed up. I don't know how many houses he showed, but he showed them this house. They put in an offer, we negotiated the offer, they bought the house, they're happy, we don't have it, we're happy, right? So for us, I don't think that 6% is a lot of money, even though dollars for dollars. So let me ask you this question here, you list a property somewhere, right? Do you have to pay money to list that property in certain places? Is this an expense of yours or an expense of the company? Because in New York, he paid money to list it in certain places because it was considered a high-end property. So he put money up front to list this in places, right? So he didn't pocket his full 4%. His organization put money into it beforehand.
Well, and that's a common misconception because they think, a lot of clients think that we as agents are making X amount,
Right,
but in reality,
yeah,
we have brokerage fees because it's not, that money doesn't get paid to us, it gets
Right.
paid to the brokerage. The
Right.
brokerage then
pays, right?
based upon the split that
Yep.
we've got negotiated. Yes, we pay MLS dues to
Mhm.
list properties. We pay realtor dues to be able to uphold ourselves to higher standards. I mean, there are thousands of dollars that we pay on an annual basis
Right.
just to be able to represent
your
you.
job.
You got it.
So to me, if you were to say to me, I pocketed 6% when you bought your house, I would not think that you made too much money off of me. Because I don't look at it that way. I look at it as, this is a house that I wanted, this is a price I wanted to pay for it.
Mhm.
I paid this price. You could tell me that you made 10% off of it. Great for you. I still got the house I wanted at the price that I was comfortable paying. Might have been the exact dollar amount that I wanted it, no, but as long as it's in my price range, more power to you, the more money you can make. To
We're
be
done here.
honest.
Yep.
Like, that's how I look at it. And if it means that I'm paying a little bit more for things, for you to get paid what makes sense, I'm okay paying it. I want good service, I'm willing to pay a good fee for that service.
Awesome.
Do you have something you wanted to add? Did you forget?
That was a previous question.
Right. Oh, it was just about like paying per house showings. I was just kind of like taking the human aspect out of it. If you went to a store and were told that you have to pay for each outfit that you try on, like that's kind of messed up. It's like, well, if nothing looks good, like I'm just paying to try on an outfit and then like, I mean, obviously there's the human aspect of it where like you guys are spending time to take people out, but it's just like, if it's something that used to be, and I'm using this term very loosely, free, and now you have to pay for it, it's kind of like, I don't know,
I
it
think-
leaves a bad taste, I feel like.
I think the thing is, we didn't know what you
Right,
were
yeah.
not getting versus what you
Right,
were getting, and I
exactly.
think that's probably
Where
the.
the money's allocated.
Yeah, I think that's a big,
To front.
probably misconception upon consumers, that we really don't know how you get paid and don't understand
Mhm.
how a buyer's agent versus a seller's agent, like I'm sitting here thinking, oh my gosh, I gotta sell, I'm listing my house in a month. And now I gotta decide if I'm gonna pay the buyer's agent. Well, you have to, you can't be mean.
We'll have that
I'm sitting here-
conversation.
I'm sitting here having this whole conversation in my head going, oh my gosh, I don't wanna do this. But because I didn't know that, and
Right.
I wanna make money just like you. I mean, it's not fair. It's not fair that you take me to 8 houses and not make money because the seller doesn't wanna pay you. Like, that's not okay to me. So as a seller, now that I know that I'll have a conversation and we will make sure that things are
Mhm.
fair, because I will not justify it in my head that if it's not.
So
So
one last,
that's on me again, though. But again, I think it's all in personality. You're gonna have people who don't really give a crap about the buying agent.
right,
They want to pay
Right.
their person.
But you also have to think they should care about the buyer's agent, because if that buyer's agent wasn't doing their job, that house wouldn't be sold, because
Right.
there would be no buying agent,
Right. There'd be
right?
nobody coming
To,
in.
there would be nobody coming in. You'd have a lot less foot traffic, I
Yeah.
would imagine, if you didn't have an agent showing a home.
Yeah.
well, one last question we have, because you have a call coming up in like 6 minutes.
Yeah.
So do you know all the things that buyers agents and listing agents go through to help you buy or sell a house?
Oh, I mean, I'm
No.
sure not everything.
Would
for
it be
sure.
helpful to know
No.
that I'm, no, you wouldn't, don't want
Because
to
at
know?
the end of the day, I feel like
To- to justify whatever it is that they want to charge you for.
Yeah, but I don't think for me, the minor details are important as much as what is it that I see from you? Do I see you bringing me to homes that meet the criteria that I'm asking you to show me? Do you communicate with me when there's a new house that comes on the market that meets the criteria that I'm asking? If you're doing the face value stuff that's important to me, the behind the scene, I don't need the behind the scene stuff to justify you being paid. All I need to know is, are you listening to the demands, right? Because it's ultimately what they are. I want this number of bedrooms, this number of bathrooms, this number of square foot, this school district, right? I want it to be in an area for resale value, for rental property, rental potential. If you're doing all of that, the background stuff that allows you to do your job for me well, doesn't matter to me. If you were to say to me, you're gonna pay 3% or 6% or whatever percent, but I'm gonna show you the homes that are matching what it is that you're looking for. I'm gonna do everything in my ability to get you into a home as long as there's something available, right? Because realistically, that's where it's at. I don't need the background stuff. I don't need you to justify why I'm paying a fee for you to provide a service.
I think that, like, with the new contract thing that's rolling out, I do think it would be helpful to know everything that's going on the back end, because then it's like, you're signing this contract because these are all of the things that we're working on the back end. Like, you know, it's one thing to be like, I'm going to show you this one house, like, sign your life away, but like,
$100.
yeah. But to have that in the upfront, I think that would be nice to have, rather than like, oh, like, you're paying for my services and like, here's all the stuff that I already did for you. You know, just, I mean, I don't need to see the documentation necessarily to like move forward with getting in the house, but again, it's just like, you know, it's more than just listings coming through email and then like you doing it. You know, like it's, there's more.
I'll
to it
say
than that.
this in closing on this subject. It
And you
never
guys are
hurts-
underpaid.
Yeah, it never hurts to give
Yeah.
too much information.
Yeah,
At the end of the day, I feel like if you have a sheet at the end of the thing that says, listen, this is what we're doing for you. This is why you're paying me. That doesn't hurt anything. You're not always gonna have a panel of people who just realize that this is a tough job. And we get that you have things that you shouldn't have to do like any other job does. You know, there's just bull in it. Every job that you have, there's something you shouldn't have to be doing to explain yourself. But I think more information in this type of situation is never going to hurt you, especially if you're going to start charging for buyer agencies.
Well,
Right.
real estate agents of late have been made the enemy and of consumers that we don't provide a value. And
Well,
that's why our positions are
Not
under,
buying houses.
that's why our positions are under attack and why we wanted to have you three ladies in to talk to us, because we all are chewing our fingernails off wondering about, you know, are we gonna have a job tomorrow? Are we gonna be able to sell houses? Are you still gonna value what we offer? So, all of us are very appreciative of you coming in and spending time with us.
Can I just say
Uh,
one thing on
please do,
that?
please
Because I
do.
wanted to say this earlier. My brother just bought a house in Newville. It was a for sale by owner and they involved no real estate agents at all.
How's
My-
the septic?
How's the house? That's whatever. We're not gonna, but,
Get her
he
started.
didn't use a real estate agent. They didn't use any real estate agents. And the first thing he said to me was, please get a real estate agent.
So we need to have him
already
come in
knew
and talk.
that.
Yeah.
I already knew that because I already knew the issues that people have had in past times
Mhm.
with going through just lawyers. And believe me, you think you're not paying a lawyer? Oh, let me tell you, you pay them too.
You pay,
So
yeah. you
either
do.
way, but I think, and like my brother said, you will get more bang for your buck
Mhm.
by hiring a real estate professional that knows the houses, knows the market, you might not know the house in specific, but you can find stuff out quicker than any of us can find out.
Right.
So in his opinion, and in my opinion too, yes, your jobs are very needed, and
Yeah.
we thank you for the jobs you do when we need you to be there for us,
Yeah.
at least in my.
I would
role.
never,
So
I would never buy a house without an
I
agent.
couldn't,
I-
so, and listening to Ryan and how that went down for
I
him,
would never.
and let me tell you,
It's not worth the money.
that
you save.
seller had all the power over him. So when she decided that she needed to be in there an extra month, she just wrote a little contract up and had him sign it. And they didn't get in for 3 months until after they were supposed to be. The kids couldn't start school in that house. Like it was a really big to do because that seller basically had him by the pants and basically dictated, well, I can't leave, so you can't come. There's nobody to protect him from that.
Right.
And so, yes, I think.
May we use
Yes.
snippets of this audio to post out there
Yes.
publicly for
Yes.
the world to
Other
hear?
than my name drop, yes.
I got you covered.
Thank you, ladies.
Yeah,
absolutely. Thanks.
Hi,
Thank you.
that's
Wrap.
Wraps.